those meetings, right? Where ideas just seem to fall flat, or maybe the same old suggestions get tossed around again. We've all been there.
Yeah, those could be pretty frustrating workplace moments.
Exactly. So today, we're going to dissect a scenario just like that. We're doing a deep dive into a transcript. It's from the English Podcast Zone YouTube channel, their video business English learning podcast, Conversation Episode 2.
Right, and think of this like getting a look inside a business meeting. Okay, it's simulated, but still. Our mission here is to really go beyond just the English learning aspect. We want to pull out some, genuinely useful stuff about sales strategies, how people make suggestions, and importantly, how those suggestions get received.
Yeah.
Sometimes unpredictably.
Totally. We'll grab the key vocabulary that's part of it, but yeah, mostly we're digging into the dynamics, the conversation itself, to find lessons you can actually use.
Okay.
So let's maybe start with some of the basic language they use. Foundational stuff.
Sounds good. Let's start with drive sales. Essentially, it just means increasing sales, selling more. Simple enough.
It's, a core goal for most businesses. It shapes marketing, product stuff, everything, really.
Like the bottom line. Okay. And then there's promotion. Now, this word can mean a couple of things in business.
Yeah, good point. It's definitely not about getting a raise or a new title here.
Right.
In this transcript, promotion is purely a marketing tactic.
Yeah.
A way to boost sales. They give examples like buy one, get one free, a 2-for-1 deal.
Okay.
Or cutting the price for a bit, like shampoo going from $5 down to $4 temporarily. So think short-term sales push, not career ladder.
Got it. So these are like the tools you'd use to drive sales. Okay, with that vocabulary clear, let's jump into the meeting itself. The transcript starts, and you can kind of feel the tension straight away.
Oh, absolutely. The manager kicks things off basically saying sales need to improve, and he demands concrete solutions. That phrase itself is key.
Concrete.
Yeah, it means practical ideas, stuff you can actually do, not just vague thoughts. They need actionable answers, right? And the first person to offer one of these concrete solutions is Roger. He suggests just lowering prices to match the competitors.
Yeah, his reasoning is that they're the most expensive in the market.
Seems logical, doesn't it? If you're pricey, lower the price.
Well, yeah, on the surface, maybe, but the manager's reaction is immediate dismissal. He calls it not very creative.
Ouch.
And then adds, it'll never fly with Swan. And even, what kind of thinking is that? It tells you a couple of things.
Okay, like what?
Well, first, he clearly wants something more original. And second, that never fly with Swan bit hints at maybe internal politics or just knowing what the boss Swan, who we find out is the CEO, will or won't approve.
Ah, okay. So maybe it wasn't just about the idea itself. It also makes you think about the team environment. Like, how safe do people feel suggesting things?
Exactly. Doesn't sound like a place where you'd want to stick your neck out with a wild idea. So then Natalie jumps in.
Right. What does she suggest?
She suggests a promotion, maybe a 2-for-1 offer or something like that. Using that vocabulary we just talked about.
Which you'd think might be a little more creative than just cutting prices across the board.
You would think, but nope. The manager basically throws it in the same bucket as Roger's idea. He calls it the same thing, and bad idea, really bad idea.
Wow, tough crowd.
Yeah. And what's really noticeable is his impatience building. He says, damn it, people, come on, think the CEO will be here any minute.
The pressure's on.
Totally. It feels less about finding the best idea and more about the manager stressing about looking good or at least prepared when the CEO shows up. Is he really listening? Or just waiting?
Yeah, that really sets the stage. It's this pressure cooker, and the manager seems, well, pretty stressed and maybe more focused on appearances. And then right on cue,
the CEO arrives, Mr. Swan! And the change is pretty dramatic. You can almost hear it in the manager's voice in the transcript. Hello, Mr. Swan! Oh, Mr. Swan! Hello, Mr. Swan!
Yeah, like a switch flipped.
It's such a clear example of how power dynamics can just instantly change how people interact at work.
Definitely. And then comes this really, really telling moment. The manager turns to the CEO and asks, do we have any ideas yet?
As if the last 5 minutes didn't happen.
Exactly. Completely ignoring Roger and Natalie's suggestions.
And this is where it gets, well, quite interesting for workplace dynamics. The manager then takes Natalie's idea, the one he just called bad, and presents it.
As his own.
Sort of. He says, we were kind of considering a 2-for-1 offer to get more competitive, a 2-for-1 promotion. That we were kind of considering is quite clever, isn't it?
Very strategic phrasing. Okay, so he serves up Natalie's rejected idea. How does the CEO react?
The CEO says, H, I kind of like the sound of that This sounds like something we should consider.
No way. The exact same idea.
The very same one, complete turnaround. And the manager jumps right on it. Yeah,
Oh.
exactly. It's just what I was thinking. In fact, it's a brilliant idea. I'm glad we thought of that. Very creative.
Wow. The contrast is just stark. From bad idea to brilliant idea in 60 seconds, just because the CEO liked it.
It really shows how much presentation and who is presenting can matter, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Okay, let's zoom in on some of the specific language used here. Match the competitors. Roger used that. What's the deeper meaning there?
Well, Roger meant matching prices directly. But generally, match the competitors means making sure your products, services, prices, whatever, are as good as or ideally better than others in your industry.
Okay.
The transcript mentions things like guaranteeing the lowest price, or maybe struggling to match because your costs are too high, or worrying if you can keep quality up if you match lower prices. So it's about your position relative to others.
Right, your position in the market. That was another phrase used.
Exactly. And in the market is pretty straightforward. It just means in the industry or in this particular business area. Like the examples, English Pod is the best language pod in the market, or iPods are the most popular MP3 players in the market. It defines the competitive space. Simple enough. Now back to the manager shooting down ideas. He used that phrase, "it'll never fly." That's quite vivid.
It really is, isn't it? It'll never fly.
Yeah.
Basically means it won't work, it's a bad plan, or they'll never agree to it. It conveys strong doubt or certainty of failure.
Yeah.
Like the examples given. A super expensive marketing plan trying to sell bikinis in Alaska.
Uh-huh. Right.
Or maybe a movie script that's just not interesting. It signals something seen as totally impractical or just destined to fail. It's
Yeah.
definitely more colorful than just saying not feasible.
For sure. Okay, so moving beyond just vocabulary, the transcript also pointed out some ways to sound a bit more fluent or natural in business English.
Yeah, it offered some upgrades for basic phrases, like instead of just, I'll be here soon, using, we'll be here any minute.
Like the manager said about the CEO.
Exactly, the CEO will be here any minute. It suggests arrival is really, really close, adds immediacy.
It does sound more natural. What else?
What else?
Well, instead of just thinking about something, they highlighted consider. Like the CEO said, it sounds like something we should consider.
Okay.
Consider just sounds a bit more formal, maybe more professional and thoughtful, fitting for a business discussion.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And the last one related to the CEO's positive reaction.
Right. Instead of just great idea, the word brilliant, as in the manager saying that's a brilliant idea, it's noted as maybe more common in British English, but it definitely conveys stronger approval, more enthusiasm than just great.
Okay, brilliant. Got it. So we've pulled apart the language quite a bit. Let's circle back to those meeting dynamics. The original source, the podcast hosts, they had a clear opinion on the manager, didn't they?
They did, yeah. They pretty much called him a potentially bad manager.
Yeah.
Mainly because his way of shooting down ideas could make employees discouraged, maybe even a little bit scared of talking. And that kind of atmosphere, well, it kills creativity, doesn't it? If people are afraid they'll be shut down or ridiculed, they won't offer up those potentially game-changing, unconventional ideas. It really touches on psychological safety in a team.
That feeling that you can speak up without being punished for it.
Yeah.
It makes you think about your own experiences with bosses. The transcript actually brought up a nice counterexample.
Oh, yeah, the story about a really positive first boss. Someone encouraging, knew people's names, made them feel valued.
Exactly. And the result was that people wanted to work hard for him.
And that really hits on a key part of good leadership, right?
Yeah.
Managers aren't just there to assign tasks. A huge part of the job is motivating people, supporting them, helping them grow.
Definitely.
When people feel like their contribution matters and they're actually seen and appreciated, they're just way more likely to be engaged and proactive. And that helps everyone, the whole company.
Couldn't agree more. Now, just to make sure we cover everything, the transcript also had that English Pod audio review section. It was like a quick recap.
Yeah, it was useful for reinforcement. It went back over terms like concrete solutions, meaning real practical ones.
Right.
Drive sales, increase sales, in the market, in the industry, match the competitors, be as good as or better, and will never fly, won't work, not feasible.
Good quick review.
And they also quickly hit promotion, again, the marketing kind. Be here any minute, arrive very soon, consider, think about, and brilliant, excellent, or great. Solidified those key terms.
And they didn't stop there. They added a few more sales-related terms, too.
That's right. They broadened the vocabulary with words like competitive, being able to compete effectively, win sales, making the sale successfully, sales strategy, the overall plan for selling.
Okay.
Also, sales cycle, the process a customer goes through, outsell, selling more than your rivals. And customer loyalty, when customers keep coming back to your brand, gives you a fuller picture of sales talk.
Definitely useful terms. And they gave examples of how to use them in sentences, right?
Yeah.
To really make it stick.
Exactly. Like for drive sales, the example was something like, if we want to drive sales, I think we need to spend more time training our salespeople. Makes sense. And for concrete solutions, it was, I expect each of you to come to the meeting tomorrow with concrete solutions for our recruitment problem. These examples really help you see how to use the words naturally, provide context.
Yeah, much more helpful than just a definition. Okay, so as we start to wrap up this deep dive, what are the main things you think people listening should take away from analyzing this transcript?
Well, I think there are a few key things. First, we've obviously got a better handle on some specific business English vocabulary around sales and making suggestions. Second, we've seen really different ways ideas can be proposed and, maybe more importantly, how they can be received, and that reception isn't always about the idea itself.
Right. Context matters. Who says it matters?
Exactly. And maybe the biggest takeaway is seeing how much workplace dynamics, especially a manager style, can really shape communication, the flow of ideas, and ultimately team morale and effectiveness.
It definitely makes you reflect on your own workplace, doesn't it? How you suggest things, how you react when others do.
Absolutely. And maybe that leads to a final thought for you listening. How can understanding these communication patterns, these vocabulary nuances, actually empower you at work? Think about it, knowing how ideas are often presented and received, having the right language. Could that help you navigate things better? Whether you're the one leading the meeting or the one trying to get your brilliant idea heard, it's something to consider.